to present this study about monitoring heat waves in urban heat island for inclusive mitigation strategy by using the case study of Padova. I'm going to talk on behalf of our sub-research group composed by Zanetti, Carlo Zanetti, Valeria Tedeschi, myself, and Massimo De Marchi. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. So I don't want to repeat again what my colleagues already explained about climate justice and the general framework, but it is quite important to highlight that there still is a little consideration about climate justice at local scale, especially in urban context. So as it is widely documented by the IPCC, the latest state of the climate from the World Meteorological Organization, the increasing frequency of such extreme events, it is under our eyes. And the local impacts of climate change are visible or getting visible. Meanwhile, the effects are increasing and increasing along the time. We are talking about, of course, heat waves, urban heat island, tropical nights, wildfires, floods, hydrological risk, and so on. And of course, when we are facing and looking at such impacts, we are also talking about adaptation policies and strategies to mitigate such impacts of extreme events. Of course, we do know in these days what climate extremes are. We are at the fourth biggest heat wave that is crossing Europe. Everybody knows that before yesterday, UK experienced the hottest day in the history, and yesterday night, main of locations were at more than 23 degrees Celsius. And I think that citizens from UK are really shocked by this temperature because they are not used at all to have this kind of climate extremes. And of course, using the phrase of Peter Italas, extreme events are new norm. They are not so extremes, they are not so anomalies, they are getting normal. And paraphrasing the statement of the World Meteorological Organization in the last report, it's very nice, this phrase, because climate change is not so perceivable. I still have a conversation with people, colleagues say, yes, but it is natural, or perhaps somehow there is some natural factors. But extreme weather events are the daily face of climate change and the climate emergency. And this is very important because we touch them in these days in different parts of the world. So we are facing in Europe these big and huge heat waves, but on the other side of the world, United States and Canada are facing the same effect of climate extremes. And in the beginning of May, in India and Pakistan, was the strongest heat wave that set on damage different crops of local farmers. So when we think about extremes, climate extremes, we don't have to think about just a physical implication, but we have to think about something else. As climate change is not like having only the physical dimension, but it implies also the economic, the social, the cultural dimension as well. So for us in Europe is the first time, but we are facing, and UK faced during the heat wave, a huge power cuts for hundreds of thousands of citizens. Okay, in Italy, in our city, just 1 month ago, in the industrial sector of the city, there was another cut. But they are so few, they are not so common in frequency, and people is not used to think about those blackouts are related to climate change. Those blackouts are related to the use of air conditioning during the heat waves. Okay, and on the other side, we are facing an energy crisis in Europe because of Ukraine. So think about using and producing another positive feedbacks of, again, burning fossil fuels to use energy to cool down our houses because of the heat. At the same time, of course, extreme events do have impacts on people. Okay, on one side, we have a picture from the United States, homeless people that are suffering and are they are very affected by such events. And on the other side, we are facing the impact on the health, especially for the people that are most vulnerable on such kind of physiological issues. For the first time during COP, the Conference Party 26, the climate justice in city came at the center of debate. And as the mayor of Freetown, Sierra Leone, he was like stating in a clear way that extreme heat costs lives. We are talking about lives. We're not talking about, oh, it's a nice weather, very hot, it's better than being cold. And when we are talking about climate extreme in the city, of course, we are talking about the phenomenon of a urban heat island. And this is what it looks like in Milano, and in Paris during the 2003 the biggest events ever of the heat wave hitting the Central and Southern Europe. So going to our study case in Padova, the aim for us is to assessing urban heat waves and urban heat island at urban scale in a city in which the red colors are highlighting impervious surfaces. We have the 50% of the city, on a city of almost 90 square kilometers, that is sealed by impervious surfaces. So can you understand and figure out when the heat wave is coming, which kind of effect is providing to the city? It is exacerbating, amplifying the effect because of the management of the urban surfaces. So our specific aims are to mapping urban heat island, identifying the social hotspot, and supporting inclusive and just adaptation policies for the city of Padova. What do we use? We use geographical information system tools and using the GIScience approach that allowed to take into account both the ecological dynamics together with the social one. Our entire workflow is based on open source software, so from QGIS, RStudio, LibreOffice, and so on. And we adopted the thermal bands B10, B11 from Landsat 8 to make the first thermal mapping of the city at 100 meters resolution. Therefore, we acquired demographic data, socioeconomic data, and of course the core inland cover of the Veneto region to perform systemic analysis of the territory. What do we found? Firstly, we found that, yes, also in Padua, there is the climate change, 1.3 degrees in the last 30 years. And yes, we also have the classical indicators confirming that the maximum temperature, the minimum temperature are increasing. They are significantly increasing as tropical nights are increasing as well. Think about that the first heat wave in Padua came in the beginning of May. And in June, I got a check on our weather station. We got 28 nights of tropical nights on a month. And here in our 30 years climate analysis, we found around 40 nights per year. So this year is going to be quite exceptional as a year for climate extremes and tropical night in Padova. So how to heat island looks in Padova. This is our urban territory, expanded also in the surrounding area. And this is the picture of the 3rd of August, 2013. So land surface temperature was in the aspect of bubble of heat around about 40 Celsius degrees. But we would to calculate the anomalies. So according to different methodologies, we found that on average, compare the temperature in the city to the temperature in the countryside, we have up to 8 degrees of thermal anomalies. Okay, that is quite a lot. And we start to think about not just the physical dimension, but also the social dimension. And if we start to look about population density, and we cross data about heat island and population density, we see that in the two neighbors, the inner city, the centrum, and the north, the heat island is very high with 3.5 degrees of anomalies. Celsius degrees, but at the same time, those neighbors are the most population density neighbors with a range of 5,000 inhabitants per square kilometers. On the other side, we try to map the vulnerability concerning the elderly people with age over 65 years. And we found that exactly in the hotspot of urban heat island, we have also the elderly people living there. Okay, but we have to consider also the wage of those people, because actually the neighborhood is hit by climate extreme is actually the inner city. And I mean, poor people or popular people not living in the inner city. So that's our map concerning vulnerability on the elderly people. At the same time, we try to visualize the dimension of the foreign citizens in Padova. And we found that analyzing the effect of the heat island concerning the anomalies in between 4 and 5 degrees, we found that the neighbors of the city in the northern sector, they are basically in these neighbors, foreign citizens are concentrated with around 30% of citizens. So again, we are identifying like the most vulnerable people that are much more affected by climatic extremes because they are living like neighbors and not in the other part, or because they are not able to let's say mitigate themselves because of other factors as like social and economical factors. Therefore, I would like to share with you that Padova is at the European level in the center of many and different climate-related programs and projects. So if you just Google, you found that Padova is selected, for instance, to be one of the 100 pilot city of Europe to be at net zero city. Okay, at the same time, we have a local plan for climate change adaptation, strategies and measures. We have action plan for sustainable energy and the climate of Padova, the so-called PAISC. We have the famous Padova Fit. And our question is, which approach for climate resilient cities and adaptation policies if we don't start to consider also the social implication, the cultural implication, and also economic factors that can amplify the suffering of the people in the city. So to conclude, I think that by adopting these systemic approaches from geography or from architecture or the GIScience, we can like widen like the analysis and the applied research in order to design, to draw a more inclusive climate resilience Euro development. So using and taking into account the complexity of urban territory, we can adopt a GIScience approach to involve different actors and also the weak actors. We can analyze physical, ecological, social, economic dynamics at the same time. And we can use perhaps the multi-criteria approach in GIS environment to integrate different vulnerability and risk assessment that consider also other actors and other factors. And using the GIScience approach and using especially the participatory approaches, the voluntary geography, we can facilitate and we can involve and we can empower also the vulnerable actors that often are excluded by the policy making or the adaptation policies. Thanks a lot for all, and I would just invite you to the continuation of this conference tomorrow. We are going to have a roundtable from the Center of Excellence at Monnet, where to leave fossil fuel on the ground towards just criteria. It's going to start tomorrow. It is online, and you are welcome to participate.